Hello, hello, welcome back. I have just gotten back from the Nelson Nash Institute annual think tank. So, this is an annual conference that we go to once a year, and I am on fire. I'm so excited to share some of my takeaways with you guys, and more importantly, talk a little bit about the Institute itself and what it's meant to me as an independent advisor. Hey, if you're new here, my name's Kristen. I'm an authorized infinite banking practitioner, and I help Canadian families and business owners find peace in their financial life and live the abundant lives that they were born to live by taking back control over their finances and redirecting more money back into their pockets. So, there is something about sitting in a room full of people that are all aligned, that are all coming together under this common goal, the goal being to build the 10% of Canadians and Americans that are thinking outside the box, and we're working towards that financial sovereignty that we all want so badly. As practitioners, we're all experiencing it, and we're just on fire because we want to share this with everyone that we know. So if you've met any of us, you know we talk about infinite banking all the time and how it's helped our families take control of our own finances and how we're using it for clients. So there's just something magical about being in a room full of people that are fully aligned in that way. It was very, very different from what I was expecting going into a financial conference. So being in the financial world, I'm there, right? I see it. I see the finance bros that, walk into the fancy restaurants in the middle of the workday, and they have their meetings, and they're all trying to one up each other. Everybody's chasing a rate of return. Everybody's trying to look the part and look as successful as they can. And to be honest, what I have found, and especially after going to this conference, is the more unassuming someone was, the quieter they sat, the more they sat and listened and maybe asked questions. Those were the people that have been in this industry the longest. They're the ones with the most qualifications. They are the ones that have been doing this forever, have helped the most people, and they're not shoving it down your throat. They are literally there because they want to build this collective of people. The ones that I noticed that were maybe a little bit showy or really in your face, they were new advisors. So they're people like myself, usually talking about themselves, talking about what they're doing, and super pumped and super excited about all these things that they're doing, which is fantastic. I'm not knocking any of those people either. But what I found is overwhelmingly the people that were quiet, that sat at the table and they listened, those were the people that were worth their weight in gold. Those were the conversations that really meant the most. And another kind of takeaway that I got just from my conversations with people, because first and foremost, the event really is, it's there to help us as practitioners just build this community. So it's there for us to network with each other and get to know each other and support each other. And that's what I found was so different than other conferences that I've been to where it's all about one-upping each other, or you're self-promoting and you're promoting your program and why what you're doing is the best. And I didn't find that at all. The speakers that got up, they really got up on stage and they were there to help, especially the newer practitioners. They were there to help us maybe explain the concept better to our clients, help us ask better questions when we're talking with them, ways that we can help build our practices so that more people can find us, because that's the goal, is building this 10%. And you can't help people if they don't know you're there. So that was very, very different for me to be at this conference and to have people that were just pouring into all of the guests without expecting something else in return. I mean, of course, there's going to be some of that, but I really, really didn't see that among any of the speakers or any of the presenters or anything like that. Another thing that was kind of a common denominator that I had had this experience before, but I had never, not to this scale. So I know that when we talk about the infinite banking concept, the more educated someone is in financial services, so I'm talking about someone who's a CPA, someone who's maybe a CFA, estate planning, people that are into life insurance advisors, of course, financial planners, all of those things, the more designations they have, the harder it is for them to catch infinite banking, the harder it is for them to understand it. One, because it's so simple, and two, because they just have all of the learning that they've received from the financial sector. You only learn about the products that you sell. And so the knowledge that they have, which is so vast, didn't teach them how to use this concept. So those people tend to have a really hard time grasping it. But the funny thing is, so many people that I spoke to that are practitioners that have been doing this for decades started in that boat. Every one of them admitted that it took them years to catch on. They first saw the book, they read it, they thought, oh, there's nothing to that. Maybe they didn't read it for a year. Then they looked at it and thought, oh, that's kind of weird, but doesn't fit into my practice. And in almost all the cases, it took the crash in the early 2000s, so that 2008, 2009 period, that they were helping their clients, right? Pushing them into the 401ks in the US, the RSPs in Canada, helping their clients build up investments, right? A stock portfolio. And all of their clients lost money. And overwhelmingly, these people all of a sudden had a shift that, oh my goodness, what I have been teaching my clients and what I legitimately thought that I was helping them with was not what I thought. And it did not serve my clients. There was nothing I could have done that could protect them from this loss that they had. And of course, that was another theme too, just talking with some of these advisors that have been in that position. They're seeing the writing on the wall that this is a position that we're building up into this bubble that we know there's going to be a crash at some point. It's just a matter of when. And just going back to it though, these advisors that were really hesitant to think about it and to do it, once they were on board and they learned it, those are the ones that are now at the head of the class. They're the ones that are leading the rest of us in the understanding of this concept. They're helping all of their clients do this. They're helping them not based on case size, not based on how much money someone has coming in. That's not what qualifies people to work with us as advisors. It's their understanding of how they're going to flow their money. Because once you understand that flow of money and you are able to capture it and flow it back to yourself, you're going to turn into those bigger cases. You're going to end up having to build a family system because you're going to have cash that you need to put somewhere. So while everybody starts small, they don't stay there. But yeah, so going back to my point, that was one of the biggest takeaways for me was that these CFPs and CPAs and all these financial advisors that never were on board, as soon as it clicked for them, they burned the bridges. They stopped selling the stocks. They stopped pushing the 401ks and the RSPs because this is the solution. This is where your financial foundation needs to be. So I talked a little bit about being in a room full of aligned people, and man, the alignment there, it was it's no secret that Nelson Nash was a Christian. He talks in his book about when he was on his knees praying to God for an answer, and that's when the infinite banking concept kind of popped into his mind, and he started figuring out how he could use these life insurance policies that he already had. That's no secret. If you've read Becoming Your Own Banker, you've seen the Bible verses that are on every page, every couple pages, and you've seen that. The conference was the same way. So it wasn't pushy in a, evangelical Christian, come on, if you don't believe in Jesus, you have to believe in him today kind of thing. It was so just the overarching theme was we believe in Jesus, we believe in God, we believe in the Bible. When someone would speak, it was always tied back into biblical references, even if they didn't mean to, which was really interesting. So if one speaker mentioned something about generational wealth, the next speaker would come in and say, "Hey, did you know that there's actually a Bible verse about that?" And they would read it. And so, like I said, it wasn't pushy. It was just kind of the overarching theme, which I really, really appreciated. You could tell that the majority of the people there were also Christians and they're believers, and it just shows through their demeanor and the way that they interact with each other. And it was just so, so evident to me. Um, Alignment also meant alignment with their education. And so we would have these networking portions of the day where you would sit down at a table and you would have discussions with the people at your table, and then you would swap tables. And what I found was the discussions that we had at these tables would all come back to the same subjects. They would come back to the same, I'm going to say conspiracy theorists, where we felt like we were putting our tinfoil hats on, but we actually weren't. We were going back and everyone was referencing books that were written way back, way, way, way before these started being, conspiracy theories. This is just truth. How the Federal Reserve got to be, that's truth. Read the book, The Creature from Jekyll Island. It was by Edward Griffin. Read that book, learn the history. Everything that we talked about was looking at the history of mostly American, because it's an American-based institute. But it works the same as here in Canada. We have the same policies that started there, we have here too. So that was one book that kept coming up. Another one that I found really interesting was Napoleon Hill's Outwitting the Devil. And if you haven't read that, it's a great audiobook too. It takes quite a while to listen to, but it's fantastic. And it's amazing because that book was written back in the 1920s. And Napoleon Hill, I'm sorry, if you're not aware, he wrote Think and Grow Rich. And he was also a Christian man. But when he's talking about this outwitting the devil, it's a book where he's interviewing the devil and he's talking, asking Satan, what is your plan with people? How do you keep people under your control? And the things that he was saying were the way that he's controlling people are so, so, so relevant to today's world. And this book, the amazing part is that it was written in 1920 and it wasn't published until just recently because his family didn't want it to go out. They thought if that was published, he would be known as a crazy person, and they didn't want to discredit him like that. So it just came out recently from his original manuscript, and it's amazing to read. So if you haven't read that, please go listen to it. So one of the things that I loved between all of the presenters, so all of the people that would go up on the stage and they would give talks, they had these themes of building relationships. You could tell that everyone in the room, you're there to build relationships. You're not there, and by there, I mean working with your clients. You're not there to make money. Yes, we all make money and it's great. It's fantastic. But that's not what is driving the people that are in that room. The people in that room are genuinely there to help people, help regular families, not super high net worth people. We're helping them too, but that's not our primary focus because we know that it's the everyday people that need this kind of solution. We're the ones that are feeling the taxes, the hurt of of taxes constantly. We're the ones that are most targeted by high interest rates. We're the ones that are paying the price when you go to the grocery store, and we're paying the price of inflation. So it's the everyday people that we're all there to help. And it was just really, really refreshing to see that in a group of financial professionals, that we're not there to promote ourselves. We're not there to see who's making the most money or to see who's building the biggest team. That's not what this was. So one of the things that really struck me, and probably struck me the most, was the things that I didn't see. I mentioned before, like I was expecting to see your finance bros in the suits and the Rolexes and really self-promoting themselves, all of that kind of thing. I didn't see that. There was a portion of the event where they recognized people that were students that had just graduated or students that had finished their mentorship, so they're now full practitioners. So the Institute only gives their certifications in person. And so because I wasn't there in person last year, I had to walk the stage this year. And if you know me, you know that walking a stage is not my thing. But I did it. I didn't fall. It was all great. Even got my picture taken. It was fine. But they weren't recognizing people based on how much money they're making. Nobody in the room was recognized for how big of a team they built. Nobody in the room was recognized for even how many clients they had, how many policies they had. There was none of that. The recognition that was there was for the students, the people who were newly, um, like I said, just finished their mentorship, and those who had been there the longest, as in coming to the think tanks, the people that have been around for decades, the people that were there in person every year for the last 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, 20 plus years, some of them. And again, the ones that have been there the longest, those 20 plus people, you would never pick them out on a street as that's a successful finance person. That's someone who's made a lot of money in insurance. You would never say that because they're so unassuming and they're literally there just to help other people. So, some of the things that I didn't see people celebrating promotions or reaching a next level or anything like that. There was no self promotions. There was no selling on the stage. They didn't talk about what they can offer you and what you can pay them for. There was none of that. There wasn't selling in the conversations. Any conversations that I had with other advisors, there was not it was not people trying to get each other onto their teams. It wasn't people um, try to sell their solution or come watch my YouTube channel or anything like that. There wasn't that. There was also no apologies for their beliefs. When you were talking to someone, if they were talking about their faith, they were unapologetic. There wasn't any feeling out, even with their views on the world, like worldviews. There was no, tiptoeing, feeling people out to see how they felt. Everybody was upfront. And for the most part, we were all on the same page. And if you weren't, that's fine. So it was a really, really different atmosphere than what I really was expecting going into a financial conference. So my biggest takeaways from the day, first and foremost, was to wear comfortable shoes next year. I will not be there in heels. I learned that on day one and suffered through days 2 and 3. Lesson number two, while it is not inexpensive, going to the think tank was worth every penny that it cost me. We went down. My sister came with me. She came as my guest, so she was as part of the conference as well. Our husbands came with us, and they kind of hung out during the day while we were at the conference, and then we would all go for dinner. We actually hit up Nashville on the way home, had a fantastic time on our way home. But I would definitely do it in the future, and I would definitely not rush through getting there and I would take my time talking with people and really keeping myself open to take full advantage of all of the networking events. And then last but not least, a slow southern drawl makes even the worst criticism go down so much easier. Um, there were people that got on the stage or you would be speaking to in a private setting, and no one was afraid to call each other out on when they were using sloppy language, when they were saying things like, "Oh, pull money out of your policy," instead of take a policy loan because you're not borrowing your money, you're borrowing the insurance company's money. Nobody was afraid to go back and quote Nelson's words. And yeah, those with the southern drawl that spoke really slowly and they just have that, honey on your tongue, those ones, that criticism just came out so much smoother. All in all, it was a fantastic experience. I am so, so glad that I went and I got so much out of my time there. I have pages and pages and pages of notes that I need to sift through now and things that I need to implement in my own practice and things that I can take back to my clients that I'm so excited about. Thanks so much for joining. If you found this episode helpful, please give it a like and hit subscribe. When you're ready to take the next step with infinite banking, click the link in the description to access my free resources and to book a call to start. Your future self will thank you. Until next time, live free.